Everyone feels sad from time to time. While this is a normal thing, and sadness and grief are normal human emotions, there are times when sadness can evolve into something more. But sometimes you can feel depressed for no reason at all, or you could stay sad for a much longer than normal time after a traumatic event, unable to get back to the normal feelings of happiness and joy. If these things sound familiar, it could be possible that you have depression. Did you know that major depression is one of the most common mental disorders in the world? And almost everyone suffers some type of depression during their lives. There are currently more than 264 million people of all ages that are living with depression. The saddest part about this is that over 800,000 commit suicide because they think they have no way out. That's one person every 40 seconds. You might think that depression is some fairly recent human condition, but depression has always been a problem for humans, and the earliest accounts of this mental disorder were uncovered in ancient Mesopotamian texts that date back to the 2nd millennium BC. Our ancient ancestors called it melancholia during this time, and if you had a mental illness, then you were considered to be possessed by demons and would get a visit from a religious priest who would then try to exorcise them. Other forms of treatment during this time were barbaric, and when exorcism techniques did not work, you were then beaten, almost drowned using water therapy, restrained, and sometimes even starved as a way to try and drive the demons out. Many people stayed far away from patients with melancholia or other mental diseases because it was thought it could be transferred to another person like the common cold. If you suffered depression during these times, you were usually shunned, isolated, and locked away. However, there were some people who thought melancholia wasn't caused by demons. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, suggested that mental illness could be caused by balanced or imbalanced bodily fluids. But in the last few years BC, the influence of Hippocrates faded, and things were no better after the fall of the Roman Empire. During the Middle Ages, religious beliefs dominated popular European explanations of melancholia. Scientific thinking was almost lost, and if you were mentally ill, you were thought to be possessed by witches, demons, and maybe even the devil himself. As time went on, melancholia remained a mystery, and treatments changed and evolved. Examples of old treatments. The early Greeks and Romans were trying all kinds of strange methods to cure mental illness, including gymnastics, music, massage, baths, and they had some early medication made from poppy extract and donkey's milk. But there were other methods, such as the spinning chair, where you would be strapped in and then spun in one direction until you were really dizzy in order to move the brain back into its proper position. Another terrifying method would be holding a mentally ill patient underwater as long as possible without drowning you. Around the 17th and 18th centuries, during the Age of Enlightenment, it was thought that depression was an inherited and unchangeable weakness or temperament, and that is actually half correct. But the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, didn't agree with many of the old theories. He is the founder of the clinical method for treating psychopathology, through dialogue between a patient and a psychoanalyst. The famous psychiatrist couch was invented by his methods, and he noticed that when he kept his dog Jojo in the same room as his patients, they were much more calm. That's right, Freud was the inventor of pet therapy. Thankfully, scientific advances in medicine and research have shown us a different picture when it comes to depression. Before we get into this, it is important to understand that the human brain is a very complex 3-pound organ that controls all the functions of the body. But not just that. The human brain is considered the most powerful quantum computer in the world, processing about 100 billion neurons and roughly 1 quadrillion or 1 million billion connections known as synapses that wire these cells together. But if you have depression, there can be problems with your supercomputer brain. Researchers have suggested that having too little substances in the brain, also called neurotransmitters, can contribute to depression. To simply put it, neurotransmitters are chemical messengers of the brain, and the nerve cells of the brain use them to communicate with each other. The messages these neurotransmitters send the brain are believed to regulate a person's mood, and that restoring the balance of these chemicals could help you if you have depression. This is where antidepressant medications come in that can help balance these neurotransmitters. While it seems like a simple process, even with the help of medications that increase or balance specific neurotransmitters, depression is still a highly complex condition to treat. This means that if you have depression, your treatment would be totally different from another person who also has depression. And one of the mysterious things is that sometimes a medication that works well for someone will become less effective over time and may even stop working completely for reasons entirely unknown. There are 3 known neurotransmitters that medication tries to balance: norepinephrine, serotonin, dopamine. The process of how cells communicate with neurotransmitters is a somewhat complicated process. So how does our brain communicate with itself? Nerve cells are a major type of cell in the nervous system called neurons that communicate through chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. The space between 2 nerve cells is called the synapse. When cells want to communicate, neurotransmitters are packaged up and released from the end, or the axon, of a presynaptic cell. That package of neurotransmitters crosses the synapse and is taken by receptors for that specific chemical on postsynaptic cells called dendrites. An example would be that serotonin receptors pick up serotonin molecules. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that is responsible for producing a feel-good chemical in your brain. And if there are excess molecules in the synapse, the presynaptic cell will gather them back up and reprocess them to use in another communication. Each one of these neurotransmitters can carry a different message and plays a unique role in creating your brain chemistry. But if low levels of a certain neurotransmitter can contribute to depression, the important question is, what causes the low levels of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine in the first place? There are several potential reasons for this. If you have depression, sometimes your brain will not produce enough of these chemical messengers, and sometimes there are not enough receptors to take them. Worse yet, the presynaptic cells could be taking the neurotransmitter back up before it had a chance to reach the receptor cell. The biggest challenge for researchers hoping to connect depression to low levels of specific brain chemicals is that there isn't a way to consistently and accurately measure if you have a deficiency of a neurotransmitter. That means the whole process of trying to cure someone with depression is a hit and miss operation, and most patients stay in a hospital for 2 or 3 weeks while taking a specific medication to see if it helps them. And while it might seem that depression medications can help a person, only 60% of patients get any relief from the symptoms they are suffering from. But it's more than just changing the brain's chemistry when it comes to treating depression. Most of the time, if not always, depression treatments will involve taking medications along with some type of psychotherapy, which can help a person learn what is going on in their lives and change a situation that is causing depression. For example, if you have high levels of stress, this can possibly contribute to low levels of certain neurotransmitters, and just taking the medication won't help your stress levels until you identify and deal with them personally with a therapist. Aside from some problems with chemical imbalances, our genes also have an effect on our mood. Every part of the body is controlled by genes that make proteins that are involved in biological processes. Throughout your life, different genes turn on and off in your body in order to make the correct proteins at the same time. Sometimes these genes get things wrong and alter our biology, resulting in you having an unstable mood. This means that a person with a first-degree relative who has suffered major depression has an increased risk of 1.5 to 3% over normal of getting depression. There are even exciting new treatments that are available for people who have major depression, such as transcranial magnetic stimulation therapy that uses magnetic pulses directed at specific areas of the brain which regulate mood. Only a short visit to the doctor is necessary, where a small machine is placed over the head and magnetic pulses pass painlessly through the skull and stimulate brain cells without medication. Exactly how TMS works is unclear, but the stimulation has been shown to ease symptoms and boost mood, showing real promise for treating depression. So how do you deal with depression? The very first thing is to talk to your doctor and tell them what is going on in your life, your mood, and how you feel. At this point, a family doctor might refer you to a psychotherapist. Therapy is the first step in current treatments along with prescription medications. We just can't stress enough that if you or someone else is feeling down, talk to someone and get help. Only by taking this first step can you understand what is causing a low mood, low energy, and an overall bad life quality. If you have depression, we want to hear from you. And if you are too shy to comment, then just click like and we'll know you were here with us.